Alright, good morning. This video I'm going to explain some of the fundamentals on builder's level. So in this case we're going to backsight to a benchmark here, and that'll give us the height of instrument. And then once you have the height of instrument, so you're going to backsight to this. Since your instrument's higher, you're going to add to that benchmark elevation to get the height of instrument. So let's do that. So basically setting up the instrument, it's kind of arbitrary, comfortable place. Make sure it's in a safe location and a comfortable height. Ideally you want to get it in the middle of your shots, so the shots are balanced. That way if there's an error in the instrument, let's say it's shooting a 1/4 inch high at 100 feet, and if you're 100 feet over here away, at least the 2 points that you're shooting will be level to each other, right? So all these relative to each other will be level the more closer you are to the center, and it just minimizes error. So you set it up at a comfortable height, and then Control Y, and then you're going to turn to this back sight. So you'll have a tape measure there, and then you're going to measure from the benchmark to that instrument, to that level line. And then you're going to add, Control Y again, you're going to add the 101.23 to that backside elevation of what you're reading on the tape measure there, and that'll give you your height of instrument, right? So if you add those two, you get height of instrument. And then you're going to turn towards the, let's call that point number 1, Control Y. Control Y, and then now you're going to have the height of instrument. You're going to have to subtract that number to get the elevation to that point. Control Y. I think I have yeah, I think it was the same elevation. So there you go. Control R. Oh yeah. I was having a little trouble. That number on the left hand side, that means nothing right now. So you take the 104, which is your height of instrument, 104.826, subtract 5, that number right there, 5.194, and you'll get the height of that point. So there's no note, but you'll want to be taking a sketch of these points and then a chart giving you the elevations, writing down and logging the information. So then Control Y. So now you've backsighted to this point here. This is going to go away. So this one here, foresight. So that's the difference. Backsights when you're getting elevation of instrument. Foresight. So this is foresight number 2, or point number 2. You're going to add. You're going to subtract that number from the height of instrument. Control Y. So the 104 is the height of instrument minus 3.913, and the decimals are usually going to be just within hundreds for elevations, unless you're actually transferring benchmarks. Alright, so there you got that one, and then Control Y. And then you're going to measure above this point. So you're measuring from the height of instrument down to that point. So you're going to subtract that number again. Control Y. So there you go, 106.29. So with the height of instrument again, minus that elevation there, will give you the height of that point. So the height of that point can be checked by looking here, 98.5339, 98.5339. There you go. And I think this one ended up being the same way, so the way I started the drawing. Control Y. So it ended up being the same. So those 2 points are the same. And that's roughly, so if you get, it's good to write down the proper terminology backsight, and that's the number you're going to use for your benchmark to get your height of instrument. So you're going to add. This one here is going to add. And then you're going to go to your foresights and you're going to subtract. Conceivably, if you're, let's say this here, not always add and subtract, but you get, let's say your benchmark's up there, and then you ended up measuring down. Oh, that got screwy. Then let's say that was whatever that is, 109.063, 0863, Control C, Control V, and let's say that was your benchmark. Control R, and then if you were measuring down 4.26, you would you wouldn't add, you would subtract from that elevation. You would subtract the 4.26 to your height of instrument. That it's not something they're going to talk about in the books because it seems you would so that is a case, and that happens quite a bit. Let's say you're coming off of the header or something, some elevation that's higher, and you want to pick up. It happens all the time, and that's how you would do that. So you would still have the height of instrument in your foresights. Obviously, if the point was higher than your instrument, you would add. So things can be reversed, but there's the basics. Let's say we do it like this. Let's say that point was up there, and you were measuring down. I think it was. So let's say you have your height of instrument. The height of instrument would be the same if we were, in this case, this number subtracting from that number because we're working off the same model. And then obviously if you were over here and you were measuring up, you would add to the height of instrument, right? So instead of subtracting because you're going down. So just obvious stuff, but give you an idea. If you're not familiar with it, the more methodical you are, the better. And then running a couple of checks to make sure that you're not making mistakes. So if you're picking up numbers and you're picking up this 101 and you get over here and to this point over here, and it looks like it's a foot lower and you're coming out a foot higher, or always be aware that you're looking out for blunders. And the more practice you get, the easier it gets. And then let's say you had this point, this point, and this point, and you needed to know the slope. This would be a pretty good example right here. So I'm just going to run a horizontal line, H. Enter. So V. I wonder why that's coming out like that. Enter. Oh, because it's not square. All right. So you would measure horizontally this dimension. What am I doing? See what that dimension is, 93.34. And then you would check that distance and height. You'd have in your book, you'd have this elevation and that elevation. So you would end up going on Tools, Calculator. So you're going to divide the rise by the run. So it would be in parentheses 101, 100.913. Depending on which direction you get a positive or negative, you'd have a positive or negative slope. We're going from this one to this one. So it's going to be a negative slope. So you would probably end up doing like this. It's where you're starting from, 99.632. Minus parenthesis divided by 93.339. All these would be hundreds if you were actually measuring it out. If you Control C, now to give you the slope. Control V. Control C, Control V, and then that's what's happening there. That's happened. It's a Control V. It's going to like 0 layer or something. Anyways, that, and then you'd have 1.37% slope, right? Control R. Sorry about that. And then you move the decimal 2 places to the right, because this is decimal. You would want percent, so it'd be 1.4%. All right, or 1.37, depending on the accuracy that you needed. So Control R. What happened there? There you go. That's it. So that's what I can tell you about center builder's level, taking a couple elevations. This is taking elevations, laying out elevations. It's just the same process in reverse. If you're, your foresight, you're gonna add or subtract the numbers to get up or down to the point that you need it. And I hope that helps you understand a little bit about using the builder's level and improving your career. And thanks for watching.